Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the News Behind the News with Ralph Kintav on Mix 94.7 FM. And thank you so much for joining me on today's program. This afternoon, I'm glad to have the gentleman who is here before me, a dynamic individual, one who has a stellar CV, I would say, but a St. Martiner who has St. Martin at heart, even though he's not necessarily based here, but he comes to, time and again. And that is Mr. Leslie Samuel. Leslie, thank you so much for joining me here on the program. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great. I'm glad that you're here. Just to maybe give a little backstory. Having found out about you through Ife Badajo, with her workshops or seminars that she did.
Yeah.
And I must say, I really appreciate a lot of the information that you share because particularly as someone in the media, seeing that, for example, you have become successful, particularly, in the blogging, the podcasting realm, and even now you're on TV, I saw, on the news with a special feature. I think, you have a lot that you can share with us here, on the island, particularly looking at, some of the lessons that you've learned and I'm always willing to share as well. Yeah. So to start off, I'll go ahead and ask if you could tell us a bit about yourself and also what's your driving force or motivation to do what you do?
Oh, that's a big question, boy. A little bit about myself. Well, I'm from here, born and raised, went to MPC, went to Havel, and, I grew up on the island. And in my younger years, to be perfectly honest, I wasn't very academic minded. I did well in school. I did okay in school, but it was never a huge priority for me.
Gotcha.
So I went to school. I didn't really do much homework and all that stuff, but I made it and I did well enough that it didn't seem like a problem.
I see.
But enjoyed my days here. I mean, I can remember this was a typical day. I'd wake up. We'd get ready, we'd go to school, do all the stuff that you do at school, and then I'd come home and I'd get on my bike and then I'd go down the road because we lived in Cold Bay. I'd go down the road to Burger King and then hang out with the boys there, and then we'd be riding around and just hanging out for the day, and then come back in the evening. You have your dinner and all that good stuff, and you do the whole thing over again. You know? And then eventually when, I finished MPC, I went to the States. I went to Michigan at Andrews University to study something. I didn't really know what I wanted to study. So I just chose chemistry because that was the class that I had the highest grade in when I was at MPC.
At Havel,
yeah. Because it was kind of cool to me to see, the different chemical reactions and that kind of stuff. And I understood it. So I just picked that as a major.
So considering how you said that, you weren't necessarily academic minded, but you just had a natural knack for the sciences?
I had a natural knack for like math and sciences.
Okay. So it wasn't like you weren't the type to have to so-called bust your brains to study and cram and...
I was not.
Okay.
And unfortunately, because I was not the person that had to do it, I didn't didn't put in the effort. I just did what I had to do to get
because it was too easy.
Exactly.
I understand.
So it wasn't challenging, but it was interesting. Kind of thing. So we'd go. What's the name of the teacher? I forgot his name. But I could remember when we took chemistry and physics and so on. And one thing I could vividly remember is him shining a laser and us not being able to see it, and then he took some chalk on the eraser that you use on a chalkboard, and he hit it together, and then all of a sudden you could see the laser. And I just remember being fascinated by that. Like, man, that's the coolest thing ever, and why is that happening? So it was interesting to me, but I never put in the effort to actually do what I needed to do. And unfortunately, because of that, I when I moved to the States and I started taking classes, the difference there and here at the time was, when you have homework assignments, if you don't do it, that affects your grade significantly. So While my grades didn't suffer while I was here, when I went to the States, it was a completely different scenario. I went there with the same mentality
And
of,
what was it? Oh, okay.
I don't have to do
Yeah, you didn't have to
do
push
much,
yourself. I got you.
you know?
I got you.
But it didn't work. So it was a rough transition into doing school the right way. And it took me a long time to get to the place where I was actually putting in the effort that I needed to be putting into. I mean, it took me like 6 years to graduate from a 4-year degree.
Wow. How did you feel though in that time, and especially your parents?
Oh wait, okay. So that's two questions. How did I feel?
Yeah.
I was having fun. I mean, it was a blast. I was in the States, hanging out, making friends,
Yeah.
and doing all the things you do when you're
Relishing the freedom.
relishing the freedom. You're
Yeah.
finally free. Nobody telling you what to do, when to
Correct,
do it. I
correct.
was having a good time. My grades were having a bad time, and my parents didn't appreciate the grades that were coming back. You know, so it was just a rough transition, but I was having fun. And eventually I reached to a place where it was more than fun. Because I switched my major to biology because I realized that I really was interested in how the body functions. So
Okay.
I took a biology classes, and I remember I was in a physiology class, and the professor came up and he started talking about a neuron and all of the complexities of a neuron and how the action potential happens and all this stuff that's happening in this tiny cell. And my mind was blown. And all of a sudden it was like a switch where it was like, I want to know every single thing I can about how this body of mine functions.
Yeah.
And I just went like off the deep end and really got into it. I got the high. I mean, it was a huge class. It was about 50 something people in the class, and I got the top grade by far.
Wow.
In that class. And I was helping the other students from all over the world that wanted to pass that class.
Quite a turnaround.
It was a massive turnaround. I've never gotten anything but a high A since that one moment. And it was like, now you find what you're passionate about and you just go all in.
Yeah.
And not just passionate, it was challenging.
Yes.
And because it was challenging and because it was interesting, I just wanted to soak it all in. And that's exactly what I did. So now you ask me what's my motivation. My motivation is the Leslie Samuel of 1996 who maybe is not giving their all, maybe not seeing what all could happen if they were to give it all. I want to show that young boy or young girl or whatever that they can do so much more than they think they can do. And to encourage them at a younger age to do what it took me so long to figure out that I needed to do, to put their all into something maybe that something that they're passionate about, something that excites them. Because once you do that and you really embrace that and put in the work, and amazing things can happen. So if I can help somebody else to see that at a younger age, man, that excites me like none other.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's fulfilling.
It is fulfilling.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's the driving force, basically.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. You already answered my second question, which was basically about memories, that you cherish growing up in St. Martin.
Many, man.
Yeah. but I guess with that too, what was it like, one, were you one who left to go study immediately after graduating, or did you have, okay.
Yeah.
So one, Michigan, why all the way over there?
Because I'm crazy. No, so I grew up Seventh-day Adventist.
Okay.
And in the Seventh-day Adventist denomination, we have certain schools in certain parts of the world. And when I looked at Andrews University, which is one of our institutions, I really liked it because it was so diverse. You have people there from over 100 different countries.
Okay.
And I wanted to experience that.
Okay.
I wanted to experience what it's like because, I grew up here in St. Martin, and that was all I knew. I wanted to experience an environment where I get to know someone from Thailand and someone from Africa and someone from, just all over the place and all over the U.S. and so on. And that was a decision that I don't regret because it gives you such an amazing perspective on what's all out there. So that's why I chose to go to that school there.
Okay. And one of the things I'm curious about too is, when you left to go to school, what did being away from home teach you about yourself and your country?
Oh, man. What it taught me about myself is that I have the ability to do much more than I ever knew was possible once I put my mind to it. That's something that it taught me about myself. What it taught me about myself is that when I take that effort and I put it into something that not just I'm excited about, but something that I feel called to, something that I feel that I'm being led to, that for me personally, that God is leading me to, and that God wants for me.
Yeah.
Like if I can align my efforts with that calling, what I can accomplish, the sky is the limit.
Yeah.
That's what it taught me about myself. What it taught me about St. Martin, and this is like serious, is that there is so much that we take for granted in terms of the skills and the talents and the abilities that we have. We think we're this small little island in the middle of the Caribbean Sea.
Yeah.
But there's so much richness here.
Yes,
there's
definitely.
so much value here. This is why you have people from all over the world wanting to come to St. Martin, because there's something special here. And I believe that there's something special in the individuals here. There's so much talent here. When I compare some of the things that I do workshops all over the place. And I've done workshops all over the U.S., in Australia, and throughout, a bunch of different places.
Yes, definitely.
And I've done workshops here. And I remember the first time doing workshops with the young people here and seeing the things that they just get, like the things that just click.
Yeah.
Whereas, in other places, they want to know, like, okay, so tell me the exact steps that I need to take to go from point A to Z. You kind of lay the picture here, and it's just like, click, I got it. And when I see that, it emphasizes how much we have something special here that oftentimes we overlook because we're looking at everywhere else. We're looking at the States, we're looking at here, we're looking at there.
Europe, etc.
To get everything that they have. But there's so much that we have right here, so much richness.
Yeah. And I think the key to that is cultivating it. Because that is really the challenge that we meet, and unfortunately it seems like it continues throughout different generations. So we reach a point where we know it, we say it all the time. Simon has talent, Simon has skills, so therefore cultivate what we have right here with what we have, and work towards increasing the resources and whatnot that we can better uplift our people, but not that because we feel like we don't have it all, we have to bring in a prefab something here.
That's exactly it. And the question then becomes, how do you cultivate it in a way that's actually effective, in a way that's helping rather than taking advantage of, and all of that kind of stuff. So that is something that I've grown to appreciate. And the challenge that I see with it is, you have the potential, but the resources might be lacking in some ways.
Yes.
And because the resources are lacking, even though the potential is there, maybe you don't get to fully take advantage of that potential. And that's the tricky part. And that's not just a St. Martin thing.
Yeah.
That's an individual thing, right? I have so much untapped potential personally. You have so much untapped potential. And the question is always, how do I fully take advantage of the potential that I do have?
Correct. And what do you do with it?
And what do you do with it?
Yeah.
Because there's so many choices. There's so many options.
I think that's sometimes a challenge that leads to people being stuck.
Absolutely.
Like, where exactly do you go?
And if you ask me, what it taught me about myself, that's another thing, right? I'm interested in so many different things. So I can go here and I can go there and then I can go there. And I've done that. And in some ways, I still do that because you're always trying to figure out, hey, where should I go? What should I focus on? What should I be doing? And that I see that as a lifelong journey, figuring that out, narrowing that in, and figuring out where do I focus my time so that I'm not wasting it. I'm not just
and not losing yourself,
and not
as
losing.
well.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Especially in today's world, right? I could be on social media all day and feel like I'm doing stuff, but am I actually doing stuff? And am I actually living? And am I actually fully taking advantage of that potential that's within me?
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. So, listening to your story as well, as you spoke about how easy math and science came to you, reminds me of two very close friends of mine back in high school, who I sort of wanted to, wrestle with.
Yeah.
The reason I'm saying that is because we, like, our group, basically, we had a competition amongst ourselves where, we would strive to get a certain grade for each class. And, as dumb boys, maybe, what we would do is whoever had the lowest grades would get punches.
Yeah.
I know this sounds like hazing, and I strongly don't recommend that. But we kept each other on our toes, basically.
Yeah.
We would study together, we'll help each other. But at the end of the day, once, that paper reaches in front of you, we were all in on, making sure we did great.
Yeah.
But my challenge was always math. I'm not ashamed to say, in CXC, I got a 5 for maths. That's horrible.
Yeah.
But I had two of my friends who basically, one of them would literally sleep through the entire class. Wake the morning, before school starts, I say we have a test or something, go through the book and ace, ace a test. Another one, he could skip class, and he would skip class.
Yeah.
Still come in on the day of the test and mash it up.
Yeah.
So I recognize that, we, as you said as well, we have some gifted students at St. Martin, but unfortunately the structure of education we have right now doesn't really pull out that potential, takes them to a higher level necessarily. And the unfortunate part is, even as we talk about cultivating, is that sometimes we have to uproot people from here, put them elsewhere, and then we see them become this amazing success or something.
And there's the other part to that, right? There is that they are amazing at that. And one mindset would be that, these are the geniuses. And I understand where that's coming from. The way I look at it is that's their genius.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You have a completely different type of genius.
Yes.
And we all have our own individual geniuses.
Yes.
And what tends to happen is we tend to be lopsided in what we emphasize when it comes to what people are good at. Science and math. You good at that? Man, you smart. You one of the smart ones.
Yeah.
But the one over there that's drawing amazing, creating these artistic creations that are so phenomenal. Oh, okay. So,
stop wasting time.
They're talented, but let's not waste time on that. You really have to get this other stuff down.
Yes.
And I think that when we do that, we do such a disservice to human potential. Like, we all have abilities to do individually amazing things with the things that we are uniquely created to do. So for me, it's now tapping into the strengths of the individuals to unleash that creative genius.
Yes.
Whatever that might look like for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. So with that, when you went on to do your master's, biology, right?
So the bachelor's was in biology. The master's was in neurobiology.
Okay, gotcha. You decided to go into the education field.
Yep.
How was it confronting students, especially due to coming from a different background? And I'm curious about, how did you make your subjects fun? Because I recognize that that's one of the things that you've been able to soar by doing. You made math, science, etc. fun, understandable. Okay, so can you share that with us as well?
Yeah, so my first job as a teacher was teaching at a boarding academy. It was a high school, and I taught math and science. The challenge with teaching math and science at a high school level is everyone is required to take those classes, but most of them don't want to take those classes.
Correct.
You know, it's just the thing you have to do because they made
It's in the curriculum.
Yeah, it's in the curriculum. It's a requirement, so you have to do it.
Yeah.
So I know that if I just go there and I have my PowerPoints and I just lecture the information that's in the textbook, I've lost them. They're not paying attention. They don't even care about being there. They're just here because they have to be there. So for me, it's always about trying to find a way to make what you're doing. I love fun. Like I told you, I went to the States, and for me, it was all about having fun.
Yeah.
So now it's just shifting the mindset of, oh yeah, if people think having fun is going out and partying and doing this and that. How could you make the thing that actually is going to get you ahead? How can you make that fun?
Yeah.
So for me, it's all about stories. It's all about experiences. It's all about me not just teaching you about this information. It's me showing how it relates to you in real life. If we're studying, how blood flows through the heart, that's exciting because that's keeping you alive.
Yeah.
So if we can do things to show it, if I can bring animations on the screen, I love when a student is looking at a screen and they're like, whoa.
Yeah.
When you see that.
Yeah. Then you know you got them.
Then you know you got them.
For sure.
Or when you have them together in the class and we're going to sing a song and have fun or do a rap or something of that sort to understand this concept. I remember, for example, there's this, when we were studying cellular respiration, there's a step in the process where there are a bunch of chemical reactions, and it goes from coenzyme A to form acetyl-CoA. Doesn't matter what it is.
Okay.
So we did this thing in the class where there was just this random thing because when I hear coenzyme A to form acetyl-CoA, I hear rhythm.
Yes. Alliteration.
Yeah, it has alliteration in there, right?
Yes, for sure.
So we did this thing in class where whenever we said that, it was this thing where the students would be like, coenzyme A to form acetyl-CoA, and then they stamp their feet. And the first time I did it, the kids were like, what are you doing? This is stupid. But I'm like, that's fine. Let's be stupid together. And we did it. Now, here's the cool part, right? They're taking the test. They're taking the test, and you see they're writing something, and they reach to a certain part in the time, and they're kind of like
bobbing their heads, yeah.
and then you hear random footsteps. You know exactly where they are.
Yeah.
But that's just a simple thing you could do to make it more than, I gotta learn all of these difficult and complicated steps.
For sure.
You make it something where they can interact. You make it something where it's lively, where they can have fun. Then they remember it. I have students like many years later coming back to me and say, hey, I still remember the coenzyme. And that you're making the thing that they have to get through, you're actually making it fun.
Yeah.
They're much more likely to get through it and to enjoy it, because if they enjoy it, then they're going to actually do it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's beautiful, man. Listening to you reminds me of 3 teachers back at St. Martin Academy. One of them is Mr. Dalrymple. He was a math teacher, particularly from Guyana. And man, we learned, and that's the beauty of, as you mentioned, particularly stories, because that was his strength. And that's one of the things that helped me. His class helped me do better in math, as bad as I was, because, one, you learn about, his upbringing and so forth, the culture and all of that.
Yeah.
But it captivated you.
Absolutely.
And it helped you to follow the lesson. And another one is Mr. Cook, someone who I always shout out, because he created over 100 games.
Oh, wow.
And still continues to create new games.
That's nice.
And he's an educator for, I think, over 12, 15 years.
That's awesome.
So, the lessons that you learned, it still sticks with you because, you were involved in the education process. It was more than just a command given to you, and also the challenge which we have today as we talk about revamping our education system throughout the world of just being able to regurgitate information, but being able to think critically, to analyze, and use what you learn to develop your skills. And going back to what you're saying in terms of your inner potential, your genius, and all of that.
And the beauty of that, and that applies to not just education, but anything that you do. The beauty of that is that we're all individuals, and because we're all individuals, we all have unique stories. And if we can use our individual stories and, my unique background, I can talk about, I'm in the States and I'm teaching a class. I could talk about the day that I was on Mullet Bay Beach.
Yeah.
they never heard that before.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So it's how do you use your experiences and your unique stories to bring something unique to whatever it is you're offering. A lot of us, we look at everybody else and we see what everybody else is doing. So we try to imitate what they're doing.
Yeah.
And there's value in learning from other people.
That's right.
But what I've come to realize is that the more you're able to focus on what makes you unique, the more you actually stand out.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So with that, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the News Behind the News with Raf Kintav on Mix 94.7 FM. Thank you for sticking with me on today's program as I'm joined here with Mr. Leslie Samuel. So to continue along with our conversation on education, one of the questions I have here for you is regarding a situation we have here in St. Martin where, for example, students are pushed into the hospitality service level or business stream, and not that many end up in a science package. Some students are even discouraged due to being pre-positioned into a non-science package. So what do you say to the idea that only the quote-unquote nerds can excel in science? What steps can be taken to make the subject more relative to other students as well?
First of all, right, the reality is that when it comes to science, there are a lot of people that struggle with it.
Yeah.
That's just real. But here's the thing, right? Struggling is not bad. Like, struggling teaches you to work. Like, it's how you build muscle, right? You want to go to the gym. You want to get strong, you go to the gym and you lifting weights and you're lifting weights that are a bit outside of your ability. Or it pushes you, it challenges you. It's not what's easy for you, right?
Yeah.
But you go and you do it. And then you do it again the next day. And then you do it again the next time and the next time. And then all of a sudden you notice yourself getting stronger. That is how life works, right?
Yeah.
So because a kid struggles with something, that doesn't mean they shouldn't be doing it.
For sure.
And I think what the first thing is we have to teach people to actually embrace struggle. Struggle is a good thing. Struggle makes you stronger. That's number one. Number two, do you push everybody into the hospitality industry? No, because everybody, that's not what they're gifted at.
Yeah.
And if you find students that are gifted in that kind of stuff and they're actually interested in that, then you encourage them to go in that direction. But this whole one size fits all kind of concept,
Yeah.
it doesn't work regardless of which area we're talking about. It is all about finding the individual's unique abilities and then encouraging them to embrace the challenges that come along with thriving in that particular area. How do you do that? First of all, you need motivating and inspiring teachers. All right.
Yeah.
If me showing up on this job is just this thing that I have to do because I need to get a paycheck, that's a problem. So you find those teachers, and I know we have them. I've had inspiring teachers here that challenge me
For sure.
to do awesome things, even though I may not have paid attention to them back then.
Yeah, but yeah.
Those things still come to me today.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So it's having those inspiring teachers, number one. Number two, it's supporting those inspiring teachers.
Thank you.
And that's a huge thing, right? Yes. Because the education field and teachers are taking they're taken for granted, right? They have to do their job. It's no big thing. If we don't support our teachers enough, that's not a St. Martin problem. That's a worldwide problem.
It's quite a funny thing too, because we always say that teachers create the doctors and everything else.
Exactly. So how could we find ways? as a community, as parents, as government, as a society in general, how do we find ways to support our teachers? How do we encourage them to get better at what they do? What kind of training can we send them on so that they can enhance their teaching? Those kinds of things are so important. And then how do we have all of this really comes down to leadership, right? You got to have leadership with a vision for where they see things going. And that vision needs to be in alignment with the potential that we actually have.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a challenging thing to accomplish, but if you have good leadership, you can accomplish amazing things.
That's right, and that has been a struggle that despite we've been facing, people push through to make things happen. Because another thing too with having a vision and knowing where you want to go is what we seem to sometimes struggle with is the jumping.
Yeah.
That skip rope game. You just skip the rope and then somebody you jump in somebody you jump in. So, we already recognize the fact that, the world has become so much more digital.
Yeah.
Tech is exploding, but us now being able to, just fall in line with the stream just so that we can get an idea of where things are and help us move towards that vision we have remains a challenge. And I think one of the things that hampers that, maybe it's fear, fear of change, fear of adopting, especially, if you have maybe teachers who may not be that savvy, but there has to be a willingness to train them to the workshops and so forth, because we can't allow our fears and comfort to hold us back.
Change is a scary thing. And we resist it. We resist change, right? You know what? I'm not gonna talk about we. I'm gonna talk about me. I resist change. If I come in the bathroom and my toothbrush is on the other side from where it normally is supposed to be, I'm disoriented. Like, what's going on? Honey, my toothbrush is gone. No, it's right there. But because it's different from what I'm used to, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I find that concept of change is something that a lot of people, they shy away from, especially when it comes to big changes, but even when it comes to small inconsequential changes like moving a toothbrush from here to there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if we can retrain our minds to embrace change, there's so much more that we can actually do. Because with change comes challenges, and with change comes different experiences, and these different experiences help us to be more well-rounded and to accomplish more. So embracing that change is a scary thing, but it could, on the other side of that fear, is so much more opportunity, so much more amazing experiences, and so many more challenges, quite frankly.
Yeah, because the challenges don't end.
No, they don't end. You just get different kinds of challenges.
That's right.
And that's okay.
Yeah, because one of the things that come to mind is even when you respond to the former question about students, adapting to the science stream, etc. Is as you said, with I forgot how you put it, but with struggle, how do you put it?
Basically, challenges make you stronger.
Challenges make you stronger. That's it. Because one of the things that you realize that is a constant life lesson, but it's a tough one though. Is the purpose or the need to persevere sometimes, because it is difficult to continue along with something and not seeing progress, especially when it's something you have hope for, something that you can see and you believe will lead to you're accomplishing a vision or goal, but then you look and it's not there. You look again, it's not there.
It's not there.
And while also considering the balance that some things you should not even like there's some things you could close off, because so I think maybe that is the dynamic that is the most complex, knowing when to continue with your perseverance
and when
to struggling stop. And when to stop.
I've had that experience multiple times, especially going into entrepreneurship and so on. I remember, for example, I started I have a biology blog and a biology YouTube channel. And in starting that channel, there was a certain point where I said, you know what, I'm going to bring on other writers so that it's not just me creating content. It's going to be them creating content as well. And I brought them on, and I'm paying them to create this content. And we're getting all of these articles on the blog and just really cool content. But then I started looking at the result, right? I'm looking for the traffic. We have more content now. Let's say it's 5 people instead of 1. So we have 5 times as much content. Maybe we're going to get 5 times as much traffic. And I'm looking at the stats, and it's not moving anywhere. And I'm spending this money, I'm spending this time working with them and all this kind of stuff, and nothing. And we're doing this for a while. I don't even remember how long we were doing it. At a certain point, I was like, you know what? I'm done. Yeah. I'm not going to continue to invest in this. But interestingly enough, a year later, when I look at the stats, what's getting all the traffic? All of the work that we did back then. So I'm looking at it now, like, after the fact, I'm like, man, if we had just continued with that, where would it be now? Yeah. Because that was the driving force for taking the traffic from level A to level Z, you know? So sometimes we give up, like, because we're like, man, this is not working. This is not going right. The same thing is happening right now. I made a huge transition because I switched from the biology blog and business to entrepreneurship and teaching about business and coaching. Yeah. But then I switched back last year, and I switched back, and I'm putting in work to create this content, and it just didn't seem to be going as well as I thought it should go. But now, just this week, I'm looking at the stats of the things that I've done over the last year. And finally, like, you have this, you know, the traffic is kind of going up slightly and then it's kind of staying there. Yeah. But now over the last month, based on the stuff that we did back then, you're seeing this steep upward curve. And I'm like, oh, wait, finally, I didn't waste my time. So this is one example where we stuck with it. And now we're seeing that things are starting to go up in the way that we want them to go. And you just got to continue in that direction.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure. So I would like to actually go into now your blogging and entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
You know, you created a stellar blog. You got the name, which stood out, which is Become a Blogger.
Yep.
How did you realize that this was going to be a success? And what about the blogging market made you realize, you know, you can capitalize on this? And what are your views as well on the transitions that has taken place since? Yeah.
Oh, man, that's so much. So first of all, I got into blogging kind of as an accident. I was doing some stuff online. You know, there are these websites called freebie websites where you complete offers and you refer people and you get like a free iPad or a free this and so on. I started with that. And then I stumbled onto an ebook about blogging. And when I stumbled onto the ebook about blogging, I saw that people were getting traffic from just creating content online. And I'm like, man, this sounds great. I'm gonna start doing this about freebie websites. So when I started my blog, it was actually called The Freebie Guy. Wow. And I was just teaching people about freebie websites. And then eventually I realized that I was more into the blogging than I was about the freebies. So I started teaching people about the blogging and how I was doing that and how I was making money doing that. And then eventually I actually was approached by the people that taught me about blogging because they owned Become a Blogger. And I went into partnership with them. And then eventually it became Fully Minds, and the partnership was dissolved. And I mean, it was great and still great relationship with those people, but they weren't actively involved in it anymore.
Gotcha.
So I kind of took it over. And I was just looking at how people were creating content and how that was not just having an impact, but how they were building businesses doing that. So it was kind of like it wasn't like a huge revelation moment. It was just slowly but surely starting to see, hey, I meet this person and they're doing it and they're doing well. Hey, I meet this person at this event and they're doing it and they're doing well. And you started to see how this blogging thing was becoming more of a thing. Now, I believe it's declined significantly since then.
Yeah.
My blog isn't even called Become a Blogger anymore. I just changed it to I Am Leslie Samuel because I noticed that blogging, just like the freebies wasn't around forever,
Yes.
blogging is
Yes.
not going to be around forever.
Yeah.
I'm also not going to be around forever.
That's true.
But when I'm gone, I don't have to worry about it anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Because
So-
you did what you had to do while you were here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I changed it to my name so that it can evolve with me.
Understood.
But I see what I was doing back then and even today as something that's continually evolving. Social media has become more of a role
Yeah.
since I started blogging, and things are going in all kinds of directions. There's Web 3.0 and all this stuff happening in the world.
Yeah.
So I think we're at an interesting time, but I do see that people are consuming content a lot.
That's
Whether
true.
it's written content or video content or audio content, that's something that drives a lot of what's happening today. So I see it as something that's going to continue to be a big part of what I do.
That's beautiful, man. Because the follow-up I have to that is the fact that podcasting has now soared, and as persons find it more convenient to listen to a conversation while conducting their daily affairs, would you say it's too late or still early to capitalize off the podcasting market?
I don't think it's. I literally just restarted my podcast yesterday.
Oh, wow,
literally. I haven't podcasted in a year.
Ooh, okay.
Almost a year on July 6th. But I felt inspired once again to start my podcast again. So I started it back yesterday. I wouldn't have started it back if I thought that podcasting was dead. People consume content. And what I love about podcasting is the reality is, if I make a 30-minute video and post it on YouTube, people are not gonna watch it. They're gonna see how long it is and they're gonna be like, no, let me get a 5-minute version. But with podcasting, they can listen to it in their car.
Yeah.
They can listen to it at home while they're doing other things. They're cleaning up the house. They can listen to a podcast. So you're able to relate much more information. You're able to serve people in a completely different way. And the reality is, for me, when I go to events where people know me, like maybe I'm speaking at an event about whatever the topic is,
Yeah.
I don't generally get people coming up to me and say, hey, that article you wrote, it was so amazing. Thank you so much for doing that. It's usually more like, man, I listened to that podcast that you recorded about this particular topic, and it was impactful to me. They'd ask me questions like, hey, how's Noah? How's your daughter Odelia, and so on. They know it because I tell stories, and
Yes.
in my stories I bring in some of my family because they're a part of my life, and that's the way I approach what I do online.
People get involved.
Exactly. It's business, but it's also me. I'm sharing myself, right? And people connect with you at a much deeper level, I find, when they listen to your voice for that amount of time. The fact that people are going to listen to this interview and they're going to take away a lot from it because we sat down for how much ever time we're going to do this.
Yes.
There's a lot of value in that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting, especially as a writer, because, I love to write.
Yeah, me too.
Writing is my main thing, actually. But I do recognize that, particularly even with news, which is why I do, I do my investigative writing specifically.
Absolutely.
Because I think it's still good to detail things in a written format and tell a story that way, especially for historical documentation and so forth, which can be a bit easy with research and the like, for referencing and all that. But one thing about having conversations with people is that I don't have to take away stuff from the conversation and try to fit it within the aim is 500 words, 900 words.
Yeah.
It can just flow and get the full breadth of a person's mind, their soul.
Yeah, and I think it all has its place. I think writing is extremely important.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And writing is a big part of what I do as well. But there's a difference in reading my words and hearing my voice. You can tell when I'm excited, right? I can't portray that as well in the written format. There's certain things that I can do, so that you can tell that, okay, this is a topic he's passionate about.
Because you can follow the tone and the voice in a written
absolutely.
piece. Yes, for sure.
But you can hear my excitement. And that makes such a huge difference in the way that people connect with you and the way that they connect with your content. Because the reality is people don't connect with things, they connect with people.
Yeah.
And the more we can make what we do approachable, the more we can tell stories, the more people are going to actually connect with us.
Awesome. Now, I do want to press in a bit on your last statement because, one of the things in speaking to different people, one of the questions that come up is, for example, what are the essentials for a person to be able to capitalize off of their personality and their skills? For example, even as you said, you've changed how to become a blogger into I am Leslie Samuel. You're a business coach. You write. I also saw that you write for Newsweek Expert Forum. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to going all in on yourself, what are the essentials? Like, let's say someone just starting with a blank sheet of paper. What do they consider?
All right, we're going to start with mindset. That is essential number one, because the reality is if you want to accomplish anything in life, you have to have the right mindset.
For sure.
You have to have the mindset of, I am going all in on this, whatever that means. Whether it's me creating a blog, whether it's me doing this podcasting, whether I'm writing a book or whatever, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it consistently. So number two, consistency.
That's right.
And that's something that I struggle with. That's a fact.
It's especially tough with creating content too.
Absolutely.
You consider the editing and everything. Yeah.
Absolutely. But one thing that has worked for me is, I started creating content in 2008. I'm still creating content.
Yeah.
And I've created content since then. Sometimes the frequency has changed. And that's fine. But I've been consistently creating a body of work.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they start a podcast and they record an episode. They record another episode. A few months later, they record another episode. And maybe they get to 7 episodes. And then they're like, this thing isn't working. Well, the reality is, just like we're talking about.
You haven't done enough.
You haven't done enough.
Yes,
hey, listen, I want to dispel this notion that, we see creators on the internet and we see these people that they post a video, it get 100,000 views in like a few days or something of that sort, and we're like, man, I want to do that. I'm posting my video to get 100,000 views, and I post my video and it gets 5 views, and then we're kind of like, man, this thing isn't working, and we're discounting the years of blood, sweat, and tears that went into building what they're building. Because it looks easy now, we assume that it's an easy process to get there, and it's not. I still struggle sometimes with trying to get my content out there the way that I think it should be out there. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing it since 2008.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people don't realize is I started in 2008. I'm doing it full time now, but it took me from 2008 to 2014 doing this thing, working a full-time job and then working a full-time job at home, trying to get this thing off the ground. So it's kind of like working 2 full-time jobs for years before it got to a point where I said that, not that I was making a bunch of money, but I've proven to myself that I can do this if I were to go all in. Mm-hmm. But, that was a process that took 6 years before I even got to that point. So, number 1, mindset. Number 2, consistency. Number 3, you pick your platform. And what I recommend for people is to choose one platform and go all in. Whether that's, creating videos on YouTube, whether that's, creating short form videos on TikTok or whatever the case might be. You choose that platform, and here's what you do, right? You have your main platform. Maybe you have a secondary platform, but that main platform, you don't just create content. You study that platform. You take courses on that platform. You follow people on that platform to see what they're doing and how they're doing it. You learn from them. You learn from the courses. You constantly push yourself to learn. And then you take action, And while you're learning, you're taking action. What I've seen too many people do is learn and learn and learn and learn and study and go through the training and the courses and all of this kind of stuff, and they're building up to this point where they can do something. No, do it and learn, learn
apply,
and do while you're learning.
Yeah.
Make mistakes. The more mistakes you make, the more you learn. So just keep doing that. Stop thinking that it's going to be this easy process where, okay, I've made this content, now everybody's going to see it. And even if you made something and it goes viral, that means nothing in the big scheme of things.
Yeah.
If you're not going to be consistently creating content.
Because
So mindset, I'm all in on this thing. Consistency, and choose your platform and go all in. Study as much as you can. Follow as many, follow people that are doing great stuff, and experiment, test, and tweak. And the more you do that over time, you decide you want to start a podcast, start that podcast. Record the episode. Take a podcasting course. Read a podcasting book. Follow podcasters. And just keep doing it. Rinse and repeat. What's going to happen is you're going to record that video, and then you're going to watch that video. And then you're going to find certain things that you like about that video and certain things you think you can do better.
For sure.
And then you take those lessons and you apply that in the next video. And then you continue doing that and you continue getting better.
Continuous refining process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Yeah. No, even with that, another thing that definitely comes to mind is, the essential of determining who's your listener. What's your market? And particularly, I'm curious on your take on solidifying the purpose or the intent of your podcast, your blog, or whatever content that you want to create. How do people get to that, point where you're not, double-minded basically on what you should do and so forth.
And you're not trying to be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
I think that's very important. So if you are starting in whatever industry or whatever niche you're starting in, it's important to think about who you're trying to target and the value that you want to provide to them. I don't want you to think about it from the perspective of, okay, I am creating this just because I want to make money as an artist or I want to make money. No.
Yeah.
I want you to focus on the person that you are trying to serve. Who is that person? How do you plan on serving them? What is the value you plan on providing to that person? So for me, when I started the biology blog, I knew the kind of content I wanted to create. I wanted to create upper level biology content for students that are majoring in biology. These are juniors and seniors. I was very specific because when I took that class, that was a class for juniors and seniors, and that's what excited me. So I wanted, just like I was helping the people in the class physically, I wanted to do the same thing for the same kind of people, but all over the world. So that allowed me to focus my efforts and the kind of content I created, because I'm not going to be creating beginner level biology content for, high school students.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm doing. I want when that person finds my content, they're like, this is what I've been looking for. And that's exactly what you want to do. So you want to decide who you're going to focus on and the value that you're going to provide to them. And then you consistently focus on providing that value and refining and tweaking and testing, just like we said before.
Perfect. Well, Leslie, thank you so much for coming on the program, and do also hope that you enjoy your stay on the island while you're here. Any final words, as well as how can people reach you, find you, follow you?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me. This was awesome. I've watched a number of your videos online, and I think you're doing great stuff.
Appreciate it.
In terms of final words, I just want to encourage people. It doesn't matter where you are right now. It doesn't matter what you're doing right now. There are always ways that you can improve what you're doing.
For sure.
And there's always a decision that you can make that can make tomorrow a little better. Challenges are going to come in the process, but you shouldn't give up because of the challenges. And you shouldn't put unnecessary challenges in your way, like just not taking action. That's a challenge.
Yeah.
Decide what you want to accomplish. Put your heart and soul into it, and you'd be surprised at what can come from it. So those are going to be like the encouragement that I want to leave to anyone that's listening or watching this right now. In terms of following what I'm doing, I am LeslieSamuel.com. My main platform right now is my biology stuff, interactive biology. You can find me interactive biology on YouTube, or just search for my name, Leslie Samuel, and you'll find the stuff.
And
that
that's
I
Leslie
do online.
with an IE.
LESLIE.
Gotcha.
Yes, indeed.
Perfect. Okay, to our viewers and listeners, thank you guys so much for joining us on today's program. Be sure to join us again tomorrow. Take care.